Are you yearning to revisit the older generation of gaming? You know, the generation that was filled with personality, risk-taking, and content that was filled to the brim that you would unlock through progressing through the game and not by opening your wallet? I don't blame you. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Kaico on the ones and twos, doing it big, never small, and retro gaming is my favorite pastime. Getting into the hobby might feel a bit daunting due to its unique jargon as well as its gnarly prices at times. But what if I were to tell you that you're able to enjoy this hobby at a fraction of the price? And no, I'm not talking through the means of emulation, but on actual authentic hardware. Grab your cheat codes, dust off those consoles, because we're about to retro game on a budget. A good question to ask yourself is, how retro do I want to go? Do you want to go back to, say, the original Nintendo in its 8-bit glory with the games of Mario, Metroid, Contra, and more? Do you want to go to an experimental 3D era, in which being PS1 and 64 with games like Ocarina of Time, Crash Bandicoot, and many more? Or do you want to go to a more sharpened, refined version of the 3D with the era of like PS2, original Xbox, GameCube, Dreamcast, in which that entire generation is a goldmine for fighting games, my personal favorite genre. The consoles I'm about to list, you're able to purchase them for under $200, in which in today's market, you know, if you want to get a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox, you're looking at $400, $500, and PS5 Pro, it's even more. I don't even remember, nor do I want to know how much that costs. Starting off this list, we're going to discuss the original Nintendo, in which you're able to purchase this console for around $100 and $150. You can expect that to come with a controller as well as the cables needed to hook up the system. One thing I do want to note is that the original Nintendo, out of all the consoles I'm going to discuss on this list, is that it is the faultiest of them all, primarily being the 72-pin connector, which is what reads the game, your game cartridges. Those are notorious for going out, in which I kind of can't blame the system, because that system came out like in the late 80s. So that's just the product of it being just very old. So be sure when you do get one in, or say for instance if you're purchasing one, be sure to ask if the 72-pin has been replaced with a new one, to make sure that when you get your console in, you're able to play your games just fine. The Super Nintendo, a successor to the original Nintendo, and what Nintendo did is that they fixed the issues of like the original Nintendo, and which, like, say for instance the 72-pin going out and whatnot. Super Nintendo is definitely way more of a reliable console than the first Nintendo, I would say. And then you're able to get a Super Nintendo for around like $139 to like $170, $180 within that range. And just like the original Nintendo, you can expect to get like a controller with that, as well as the cables. One thing to note is that Super Nintendo, just like the original Nintendo as well, though the shells of the console can get discolored, I feel like out of all the systems, I feel like those are the most common to get discolored. They kind of look like a burnt potato chip sometimes. I'm not too sure what causes that, if it's just like just being out in the sunlight or what have you, which doesn't really make too much sense because you're indoors if you're playing the game. So maybe just the light in general, but definitely keep that into consideration when getting one. If you're really into keeping your console looking nice and presentable, definitely try to get you a Super Nintendo or original Nintendo that has a really nice looking outer shell. Moving along, we have the Sega Genesis, in which this is going to be the console on this list that's going to be the cheapest to purchase hardware specifically. You can buy a Genesis as low as $50. You can get a Genesis between $50 and like $90. You definitely shouldn't be paying over $100 for a Genesis. You can definitely buy one. Either generation, there's 3 different versions of the Genesis. You can definitely scoop you one for a really good price. So I'll say if you're into Sonic the Hedgehog, 2D games, or even like some of the fighting games that's on the Sega Genesis, being Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat and some other ones, I would really recommend you look into Genesis. If you like that era, I feel like you would not be disappointed. Or if you even played it growing up, it would be a really good time to go back, because it is very cost efficient to play a Sega Genesis. I promise y'all this was not intentional at all, and I kind of forgot about like the pricing of it, come to think of it, but the PlayStation 1 is neck and neck when it comes to hardware affordability, much like the Sega Genesis. So you can expect to buy a PlayStation 1 for as low as $50, honestly. You're going to be around like $50 to $90. And PS1 is like a gold mine for JRPGs. If you're into Final Fantasy, arguably some of the best Final Fantasy games are on the PS1. You know, Squaresoft peaked, like they were just rapid fire. So granted, some of those JRPG games can be a little bit higher in price, but do know that there are some ones that aren't going to be as much, say like the Final Fantasy games, you can get for a pretty good price. And if you're into fighting games, much like myself, Tekken 3, bro, like, I'm trying not to talk too much about games because we're going to talk about it a little bit later on, but Tekken 3, Oh, I got even more to talk about. But yeah, PlayStation 1, I also highly recommend to look into. Moving on to the last cartridge-based system that I will be discussing on this list, the Nintendo 64. It's going to be a little bit more than like say a Genesis PlayStation 1 probably. I would say it's like maybe like around like $80 would be like the low. $80, like 120, around that. It fluctuates. N64 is a very common system, so that's probably why like you can get one for like pretty cheap, or you'll get one for like a little bit more. But I would say kind of look within that range, like 80, maybe even 70. But Nintendo 64, you know, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, which is the God game, by the way. Like, Perfect Dark is the best Nintendo 64 game. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm sorry. I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, N64, the catalog may not be the absolute best and rich, but the first party support for N64, like a lot of good games. So not only that, N64 is really fun with like friends. So it's definitely a really good like 4-player console, because it does have like the 4 ports natively like installed into the hardware. So N64 is definitely a console where you can go into. You know, it's a good time for a whole family, man. I might be rambling right now, but it's just a good time for the whole family. N64, y'all. One quick note that I do want to mention before we move on, that N64 is the last cartridge game that I was going to be talking about here when it comes to systems. If you're playing a cartridge-based game, definitely be sure you have like ibuprofen alcohol on deck. That's like 91 or 92% or whatever, because cleaning the cartridge pins with like a Q-tip and alcohol, scrubbing the pins just in case if it gives you any issues when putting the console inside the game, whether it be NES, Super Nintendo, N64, Genesis, what have you, that usually remedies any issues you have when it comes to reading games on that console. But yeah, if you're ever playing any one of these cartridge-based games and you put your game in and it doesn't boot up, it's just a black screen, be sure to clean the pins of the cartridge, because those were notorious for getting dirty, and that usually remedies it and you're able to get back into your gaming session. The PlayStation 2. That's all I gotta say. Look, PlayStation 2 isn't my personal favorite console on this list, or ever at that. It's easily in my top 5, I would say. PlayStation 2 is insanely good. It was insanely good in 2001 when it came out. It is insanely good now. PlayStation 2 should be on your radar if you want to get into retro gaming. The catalog goes crazy with PlayStation 2. You can expect to buy a console for like $100, you know, maybe like a 90 to like 150, you know, still all these consoles under $200, but I would say probably like in the lower ends of $100. But yes, I cannot recommend PlayStation 2 enough if you want to get into retro gaming, if you want to get into retro gaming on a budget. PlayStation 2 is the console. Moving on to, in my opinion, the most underrated console on this list, the original Xbox. The original Xbox, I am a huge fan of. I want to say it's like a top 5 console for me, but I love the original Xbox and I still play on it a lot to this day. The original Xbox, you can expect to pay around $100, like in the $100 range. Once you get past buying the original Xbox, a lot of games are super affordable for it, like a lot of them. So if you're into like your Halos, your Crimson Skies, and any other miscellaneous games, because that was like the period where Microsoft took the most risk, so there's definitely way more variety on an original Xbox than say like a Xbox One or Xbox 360. I would highly suggest you to look into getting an original Xbox. It has built-in memory. It's one of the few consoles that actually didn't need like a memory card, so it had basically infinite storage, and you were able to enjoy some DVD capabilities just like the PlayStation 2 and so forth. So if you're not sold on an original Xbox, I hope you can consider trying it when we talk about some of the games later down in this video. My personal favorite consoles ever, GameCube and the Dreamcast. But I cannot recommend these consoles if you were looking to game on a budget. These consoles, they're great, but at the same time, there was like a cult following, and so now, unfortunately, the games are pretty pricey. Really good ones, it's kind of on a premium price. It's not like Sega Saturn levels or Neo Geo levels, but it's kind of hard to find cheap games for these systems that are like really good. But if you are interested in these systems, Dreamcast is like the mecca for fighting games. It has every good fight. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 1, Power Stone 1, Power Stone 2, CVS 1, Kakarot SK2, Japan only, Alpha 3. You can play Third Strike on it, Street Fighter 3. Has so many good fighting games thanks to the Naomi ports. And then the GameCube, just F-Zero GX, bro. That's all I gotta say. F-Zero GX, and then Ultimate Muscle, Legends versus New Generations. I'm saying all this now because I probably won't be able to talk about these games much later on in the video because I won't really be discussing these systems moving forward that much. But hey, if you're interested in these consoles, I still highly recommend it, but just know that you might have to pay a little bit more. But one way to circumvent that and shave off the price is the Nintendo Wii. That's going to be the last console I'm going to be discussing here, and what you might be thinking, Cusco, is the Wii Retro? That's up for debate. It came out in 2007. It's 2025 right now. That's kind of a pretty big gap, if I'm being honest. And it doesn't have HDMI ports. It's an AV only system. So for that, I'm going to just include Nintendo Wii as a retro console, in which you're able to play some good games, but it is also backwards compatible with the GameCube. So if you want to play the library of GameCube games, you can get you a Nintendo Wii that's backwards compatible. All you have to do is look out for the top of it. If you're able to flip it open and see the 4 controller ports at the top, then that means it is backwards compatible and you're able to enjoy F-Zero GX, Mario Kart Double Dash, Ultimate Muscle Legends vs. New Generations, if you want to pay a more premium price for your video games. If you can buy a Nintendo Wii for under $100, easy. You can probably walk into a garage sale right now and buy one for pennies on the dollar. That's how common and popular the system was. Alright, you picked out your favorite console, you're ready to hook it up and get your gaming session going until you realize you go to the back of your TV and see that you don't have the actual AV ports to plug in the system of your choice. Unless you have a CRT TV located in your household, you might have quite a dilemma when it comes to playing these games. All of the consoles I've mentioned use AV ports, and that is a format that is no longer supported in 2025 when it comes to modern TVs because there's no devices that use that format. And that's where HDMI converters come into play, in which I cannot recommend this product enough, Kaico. Kaico is a brand that bridges the gap of retro and modern, so you're able to get the best of both worlds, in which I'm talking that you're able to play these old games on your new TVs. It is quick and simple to set up thanks to its plug and play nature. The games are vibrant, they're colorful, they look beautiful on HD displays to the point you could be thinking to yourself, I can't believe these games used to look like this back then. And the best part of all, it is budget friendly. I cannot recommend these products enough. You can get you a PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 one, which is a combo pack if you think about it. You can get it for as low as 40 bucks. Or if you want to get a Nintendo Wii one, I believe that's $20. The Nintendo 64, GameCube, I believe that's $60. Original Xbox, 40, but for the most part, you're looking at the median of $40. I love this. Thank you so much to Kaico for providing this product for this video. I do want to say that I even had Kaico products beforehand for some years now, as these truly are my go-to when it comes to retro gaming in a modern world. I'll have these links down below in the description on where you can get these products, as well as for each system. Not only that, you're able to buy confidently because it does come with a 1-year warranty as long as you register your product, in which I'll have that in the description as well. And I will say I've had my Xbox and Dreamcast Kaico for 2 years now. Hasn't failed me. You got your console all set up and ready to go, and you might be sitting there thinking, Cusco, what game do I get? And I'm glad you're thinking that, because I have a great list of video games that you can pick up for around $25 or less. I'm talking like a handful of these games on this list you can find for potentially $10. And these aren't like your Madden 2001s or what have you. These are high quality, amazing games. PriceCharting.com is going to be your best friend when it comes to evaluating prices of video games that you would like to get. The website is super easy to use. All you have to do is type in the game you're interested in, and it will give you an average price of what it's going for in today's market. It will let you know how much it would cost loose. So say for instance, you're buying a game and you just want the CD, don't care about the case, or just the cartridge, don't care about the box. It'll give you the loose price, and then it'll also give you the complete in box, also known as CIB, where it comes with the case, the manual, the box, what have you. There's 3 key points that I do want to mention when using price charting. Is that 1, if you're interested in getting a cartridge-based game, whether it be Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, or original Nintendo, when you're looking at the prices of say mainly the loose category, it can be a little bit manipulated due to the fact that price charting does pull from eBay, is how it gets its average. And sometimes eBay can have the fake cartridges thrown in and whatnot. I don't think this happens often. It might be a little bit rare, but just do keep it in consideration when you are looking at loose cartridge games, that the price can be a little bit off just because of how many replicas there are out in the space. But usually I think price charting is pretty good at filtering out the fakes and like keeping the real cartridges intact. Moving along to greatest hits, which is a version of a game that has been pretty successful. It sold a lot of copies, so they basically reproduce these games and then slap a greatest hits label on it, which usually is like green or red depending on which system it is. But I will say that PlayStation 1 gets affected by this the most, and people like going for the black label covers, which is black labels is like the original production of the game. So a lot of collectors like going for that one as opposed to the greatest hits one, which is green. So that actually makes majority of the time the green PlayStation 1 games cheaper than the black label PlayStation 1 games. Lastly, one thing about price charting is that the prices fluctuate. So when you see one price for 1 week doesn't mean that it's going to be that same price the next week. The video game retro market is constantly changing. Some games are going to be cheap one day, maybe like months from now it's going to go high in price. I feel like a good example is Sonic the Hedgehog. Like Shadow the Hedgehog and like Sonic Adventure 2, those games like skyrocketed in price because of the Sonic 3 movie that was released in theaters. So a lot of different little like variables can come into play when it comes to affecting a game's price. With all that being said, let's hop into the amazing games that you can find for $25 or under as of the making of this video. I will say as well, be sure to have a memory card on deck if you are playing like a PlayStation or a GameCube, because it doesn't have any internal memory. You don't have to worry about that with like NES or Super Nintendo or Xbox. But if your console does require a memory card, definitely do purchase you one so you can save your progress. We're going to go into a little montage just to show you guys all the amazing games that you can get, which there is a lot and I can't even fit everything in this video. So definitely use price charting to kind of like see what type of games that you can get for a pretty decent price. But yeah, I am going to show a lot of 6th gen games, being like PlayStation 2, Xbox, because I can't recommend PlayStation 2 games enough, or just the console itself enough, because amazing console. You definitely have an expansive catalog when it comes to PlayStation 2 if you want to get like one of those like rare games, like say like the Silent Hill games or like Haunting Ground. Well, Haunting Ground, that's like super expensive, but hey, it's the options there if you want to in the future. You know, we gotta start off light. But yeah, we have, like you see, we have Zone of the Enders, super awesome, fast-paced robot game that was produced by Hideo Kojima. But yeah, speaking of Hideo Kojima, we also got Metal Gear Solid 2, which you can get on PlayStation 2, or you can get on the original Xbox. I believe the original Xbox One is going to be Substance. It's going to be like a little bit cheaper, probably you could find. But the PlayStation 2 one still is. You can probably find it for like $10, $12 or less. Still holds up to this day. Moving on to the extreme sports side of things, we have the Tony Hawk games, in which while I was making this video, they announced Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4, and I am so very excited. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. You can find Pro Skater 3, Pro Skater 4. You find basically like majority of the Tony Hawk games like on PlayStation 2 or Xbox at a really good price. Which I'm saying that now, I don't think it's going to affect it too much now that the new game's coming out. I still believe you should be able to get it at a really good price. We got the SSX 3, which in my opinion is the best SSX game. The graphics are amazing, the music is just mind-blowing, and then the gameplay is very sharp. I love that game. You can definitely pick that game up for cheap. Then we have the Jet Set Radio Future, which if you're into more like a cel-shaded, like anime-esque approach to games, like Jet Set Radio Future is just like oozes personality, in which getting the game by itself is pretty expensive. It costs definitely way more than the bundle pack, so if you're interested in playing Jet Set Radio Future, definitely try to get you a Sega GT Jet Set Radio Future bundle pack, because that was a bundle that came with original Xbox for people that bought the console back in the day, so they made like a lot of those games. So though that actually used to be, that's an example of a game that used to be very cheap, and then out of nowhere it kind of went up in price, but it might go back down, we'll see. But I can't recommend that game enough. You got your racing games, you got Burnout 3, you got Burnout Revenge, which I believe Burnout Revenge is going to be a little bit on the cheaper side. It's the sequel to Burnout 3, very fun, very arcadey style action. You get to crash into cars. Music also amazing in that as well. We got fighting games, the best genre, which we got Tekken 3, which you'll be able to get for a good price, especially if you get the greatest hits version with PlayStation 1. You get Tekken 4 as well for a really good price. Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution, which that game is actually super good. It's probably one of my like top 5 favorite casual fighting games to play, just to pick up and play as a really fun like single player like ladder mode. Mortal Kombat 2 for the Sega Genesis if you want to go a little more on the more retro side, way old school. You can definitely get that for a really good price. Guilty Gear X2, which used to be my favorite video game of all time. I was super addicted to that game. Really fun characters, really cool aesthetic. The music is popping, it's jamming, it's great. Soul Calibur 2, in which depending on which version you get is going to be cheaper than the other ones. GameCube, in my opinion, is my favorite because you can play as Link, but it's definitely going to cost more, but I feel like you can still probably get that game for like under $30, but if you want to get like the PlayStation 2 version or the Xbox version, you can probably find that game for around like $10 or $12 or so. Dead or Alive 3, graphics just still hold up to this day. I'm a huge fan of the Dead or Alive series. You can get that for really cheap on the original Xbox. Street Fighter Alpha 3, PlayStation 1. You also get the Street Fighter Alpha Anthology if you want to get that on your PlayStation 2. It gets you Alpha 1, 2, and 3, but some of the content is missing, kind of like World Tour mode. So if you want to have a little bit more like game modes to play as, I would recommend playing the PlayStation 1 version, but if you want to have like a mixed bag of like alpha games to play, I definitely can recommend Alpha Anthology as well if you just want to play the more arcade side of things. There's some really good GameCube games as well, and we may not be able to find these games like 10 and under, but you're still able to find these with like 25 or under, most likely, and which would be, say, Metroid Prime. That one's a classic. You can also find Resident Evil 0, which this might be like the Omega hot take, but I think Resident Evil 0 might be my favorite Resident Evil game. I had a lot of fun playing it. Super Monkey Ball 2, which that's actually a top 5 GameCube game of mine. I love Super Monkey Ball 2. I talk about music a lot so far and while I'm talking about these games, but Super Monkey Ball 2's music is so good. Like, I was actually listening to that as I was like prepping for this video. But yeah, Super Monkey Ball 2, if you have a GameCube, if you're getting a GameCube, you can definitely pick that game up for a relatively decent price. So that game is amazing. For the Xbox fans, you got your Halo 2, you got your Halo 1s. You also are able to play like some of Xbox's best role-playing games ever, being like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, as well as Fable, which both those games you can pick up at a really good price, and they're like filled with content. Definitely longevity is there. It will definitely take you some time to finish those games, but those games are really good. You can probably even pick up Jade Empire as well for a really good price. For my non-Western JRPG fans, you can definitely pick you up Dot Hack Infection, which is the first Dot Hack game. You can actually pick that for a really good price. I know the later on the Dot Hack games can get pretty pricey, but you can start off with that one. You can get Final Fantasy X for a really good price. You can get Final Fantasy 8, especially if it's Greatest Hits. This is PlayStation 1. I'm sure you can pick up some other Final Fantasy games on Greatest Hits as well for a really good price on PlayStation 1, but a handful of Final Fantasy games can actually be picked up for a pretty good price. Even Final Fantasy 12 on the PlayStation 2, you can definitely get that for like 10 or under. So if you're a Final Fantasy fan, definitely stock up on some Final Fantasy games. But in all seriousness, y'all, I cannot recommend the PlayStation 2 enough, just because you just get so much bang for your buck. It's kind of crazy to me. You know, like NBA Street Volume 2, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Like, I'm pretty sure all 3 of the Grand Theft Auto games you can pick up for under. You can probably get it for like $10, honestly. The 3D platformers, which was like a big boom within PlayStation 2. You know, you got your Jak and Daxter, your Jak 2, Ratchet and Clank, Going Commando, Up Your Arsenal, arcade shooters like Time Splitters 2, action adventure games like Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. The list goes on. Then I do want to talk about the Nintendo Wii, in which you can pick up, say, Twilight Princess Legend of Zelda for like, that's going to be the cheapest way to play the game. Wii U version costs significantly more. GameCube version costs significantly more. So if that's a game that you really want to revisit or just want to try for the first time, I would say get on the Wii if you want to save some money. And then we got No More Heroes, which is just one of the few games on the Wii that took like a very like mature aesthetic with, you know, the violence. It's goofy, it's funny, it's awesome. And then speaking of mature, we got the holy grail of them all, Wii Sports, in which you can pick up Wii Sports for like 25 or under, 30 and under. And I say mature because, you know, when we play the game, we're all mature, responsible adults. We don't get salty when we lose. You know, we don't have to pop off when we win. You know, it's a gentleman's game. It's a fun, family, gentleman's game. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you guys find some awesome retro games and retro game systems to play on. Be sure to hit up your local game stores to support local game businesses, because I love them more than traditional retailers. I highly recommend Found Electronics and Video Games. That's not me being biased. I legit think that store is awesome, and they even do deals where some games that are 10 and under, you can get buy one and get one free. It's amazing. They're located in Watauga, Texas. They also ship to you as long as you live in the United States. I recommend checking them out. But hey, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, because it helps my channel out tremendously. And please look forward to fighting game videos I'll have on this channel. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoy your retro games.